So one of the things that was revealed in this, did the millions of Titans who initiated the rumbling eventually revert to their human form? Answer: if there were enough pages, I would have drawn the Titans returning to their human forms entirely naked. They would have faced a punishment from people who were nearly crushed by them. Right? And my response to this was, bruh, so the millions of wall Titans are not just manifested Titans like Eren does, they are people? Number one, that is dark AF. Number two, why though? Because, like, this is the Founding Titan. It can manifest things from the past, from the future, and everything else, right? It's very, very odd. The thing here is, like, the lore always implied that they were people, right? Like, if you look at the actual concrete lore, never a Titan has been manifested from nothing. Like, there is not a single Titan that we see that is just manifested like that. Every single one is either tethered to the Founding Titan, or there are Titans that are, like, created from people, right? But my brain thought that when this happened, basically what happened was the whole crystal catacombs and the walls were created at the same time by the Founding Titan, and they were just brought up by nothing. Literally like that. The reason why I thought that, and I know this doesn't really make sense with the lore that we know, I just thought that this discrepancy doesn't make any sense. Like, the size of the walls and the sheer number of Titans doesn't make sense with the population of Paradis. And I've got sources. I've got sources for this, right? So, by the way, we actually see a representation of this. Hold on. I brought sources. So this right here is in the Season 2 ending. Why can I not show it properly? We'll do that. There we go. So this is in the Season 2 ending, right? So it's not like we actually never saw evidence for this. This is presumably them waking up after the rumbling, right? And it's the same thing with them being depicted as their walls, their hands being crossed within the wall, right? So all this stuff has in theory been shown to us. So the implication was always that they were people. But I thought that this, like this whole hand crossing thing, right? If you look at the wall religion, let me bring up a screenshot. The wall religion does the same thing, and I thought it was just propaganda. If you look at them, they're doing the same exact thing, right? So what I thought is that this whole thing was basically a story they made up to say, oh, look, we need to stand in unity just like the walls, right? I thought it was a totally made-up story with absolutely no basis, in the same way that the story of Ymir is entirely made up depending on which side of the story you are, right? None of them really talk about her just being a slave that gets turned into a titan. It's either a god or it's a devil. It's never the truth, in the same way that this. That's like one reason why I thought that it doesn't really... them just being manifestations fits better, right? There's another reason, and that's the numbers. If you look at the actual numbers of people on Paradis, in episode 2, I believe, there is talk of how many people were sent to recapture Moria. And frankly, there is a pretty weird discrepancy, because at the time of the series, there was only 1.2 million people on Paradis, and like a fifth of them were sent to recapture the wall, and they died. So there is a million total people on Paradis, but somehow there are millions of wall titans. Now, this number of millions of wall titans has been disputed multiple times, right? I think, like, people have done the math, and if you do their width, and you do, like, the wall size, some estimates put it to, like, 400,000, some put it to, like, 700,000, some put it at millions, but still, like, the number of actual people versus people in the walls is insane, and there is a whole nother angle to this, right? The Carl Fritz, and did I talk about it right here? I don't think I did. I talked about it with a few people in the replies. The Carl Fritz angle, right? So his, like, vow of peace and, like, saving his people from ignorance. My guy, I know a lot of what you said was, like, blatantly wrong, right? Like, the whole, they're gonna live in ignorance. Obviously, it was dumb. It was wrong. You knew it was wrong. It was self-serving. However, even under his ideals, making these walls makes no sense, because if you're gonna let your people die in ignorance, you've still turned many of them into wall titans, and by many of them, probably a majority, actually, numbers wise, right? So it doesn't really like in my brain, it doesn't really even fit the Carl Fritz line of thinking. So I am very surprised by this. And again, lore wise, it is absolutely people. Like, lore-wise, it's literally right here. And I think this is what Isayama means by if he could have drawn it, he would have drawn it, right? He felt majority of them being sacrificed, like this is self-hating repentance. Yeah, but like I think like his philosophy wasn't really about, like what I think he was doing is he was like his philosophy was in many ways contradictory, right? Like the whole, he wanted to let his people all die as repentance because he thought they were devils and that they were like tainting the world, right? But he never actually did anything about it. He allowed them to just live out their days in ignorant bliss, and if something happens, they will just accept their deaths willingly, and that'll be that. But he never actually affected his people directly outside of just removing their memories, but that was more so in line with establishing this bliss, right? Like transforming them into wall titans, that's kind of like, seems a bit more extreme to me. My headcanon was always that they were just manifestations out of nothing, right? Like they don't have a tether in the same way that like Eren has the tether. The Eren tether is like very similar to the Warhammer, right? Like both of them have the same thing. They have like a little wire going to it. I have a screenshot of Eren attacking the wire. But the Warhammer has like the little internet cable, right? And Eren unplugs that. So they obviously don't have anything like that, but it just seems kind of silly to me that completely forgot about another thing. So if these are indeed random people that have been manifested into colossal titans, right? This creates another point of interest. And the point of interest is, why didn't the hallucigenia, I don't know how to pronounce it, why didn't it turn Connie and the others into colossals at the very, very end? Right? Because when it's like ripped free from, I guess, Eren, and he's just like wiggling around, it doesn't create colossals, it creates just pure titans. And small pure titans. So, is it because it didn't have enough energy? I don't know. There were royal blood? Maybe that could be an explanation. Yeah, because like Rod's Titan is obviously a huge abnormality, right? It could be Rod's Titan, yeah. It could be Rod's Titan. I just think like with what we know of the Founder's power, it just being random people seems like such a brute force solution, you know? And that's why I thought the walls were sort of like the exception in all of this almost. But they literally just created them out of nothing. They just manifested them completely in the same way that like the hardening, right? Is just a thing that was created from nothing. The walls were never built. They were just literally manifested out of nothing. I wish we get more Isayama explanations on stuff like this. Because this is like one of those things that is, people have debated for such a long time that I'm glad we have an answer. It's the same thing like with how tall are all the colossals, right? Because there are usually two ways of thinking about it. Number one is that they are just 60 meters. All of this is because of the miner story. Let me bring up the miner story. I have the miner story already saved. It's in episode 25. I know exactly where it is. The miner story in episode 25 talks about a dude who was digging at the walls, and he was basically silenced by he hit something hard, and then the MPs basically silenced him, right? So people think that means the Titans are 60 meters and they're just buried, right? The reason why they would be buried is because of a little thing called a foundation. So it just makes sense right here. So this is from episode 25. This is the miner story. Alright, currently disclosable information. That is one way of thinking about it. Personally, I always thought the wall titans are just 50 meters and that the foundation of it is just a wall, right? Like again, it is just a thing that has been manifested from nothing. I think the wall goes below ground, and I think is the thing that goes all throughout Paradis with the little pillars. The crystal pillars that we see in the crystal catacombs. So if you look at this, there are pillars all throughout Paradis, right? So I thought it was more so a situation like this. Like it doesn't matter whether it's the colossal or just the thing that is hardening around the colossal. Like these things go way, way beyond where the crystal catacombs were. Like the little shack was like right here, right? Like it was small. But look at how far the pillars go. Like the underground chapel thing was massive. And it was manifested from nothing. And it literally holds up the ground, right? And if you look at the underground screenshots, they're exactly the same in Levi's OVA. I think that's actually also seen in episode 25. The stalactites or the stalactites. I don't remember which is which. One of them. Right here. So this is the underground, right? In Parody. We don't really see a lot of this before, but it's like the same structure, right? This could be a natural formation because these things do exist in the real world, but like they're basically exactly the same. So I don't know. That's what I assumed. But I would want Isayama to give a concrete answer, because right here they're not buried, you know? The reason why I want them to be 50 and not 60 is because I think it makes the Colossal Titan cooler. Like, it's one of the 9, I think the Colossal should be bigger. Wonder if the island was ever there beforehand. Presumably it was because they were talking about fleeing to the island, right? So I do think the island was actually there. I don't think it's created from nothing. At least based on the phrasing, right? It's extremely dark, though. Like, did all of them survive? Did some of them survive? How much they know? I have so many questions about this. I want to know about the Colossal Titans. I assume they had their memories wiped too. Presumably. And I mean, even if they didn't, like... And another thing I completely forgot. What about Eren? I think using the rumbling does kinda sorta go against... Like, if these are people, I mean. Is kinda weirdly against Eren's entire philosophy, but then again, it also kind of isn't, you know? Because I think, like, Eren's whole deal was about individual freedom. He's the reason why he never did anything to Historia, the reason why he didn't want Historia to inherit the Titan. He cared about individual freedoms for people that he liked, for people that he respected, yada yada, right? So if he knew these were all people and fellow patriots, as he himself says, I don't know. But then again, he also didn't stop the Pure Titans, right? Like when the rumbling started. Would go against principles of Season 1 Eren, but Eren has gotten all in Season 4. Yeah, I can see that. I do think like a lot of Eren's ideals are obviously purposely meant to be contradictory, right? Like the whole conversation with Ramsey is like the perfect example of that. I genuinely think that I can't wait to get to that in the overanalyzing series. I think the conversation with Ramsey is one of the most beautiful pieces in all of fiction. It is. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. He didn't control Dina. Pure Titans already not having free will, kind of, sort of, at least in this state they're in. Yeah, I guess like I guess when the rumbling started, it was kind of like all bets are off, because like he was already sort of aware of what was going to happen next, right? So I don't think really canceling out their powers makes sense, I guess. I'm just still surprised that they're actually people. And it's like such an obvious conclusion too. It's not like one that I ever thought was like out of the range of possibility, but actually hearing it confirmed for some reason, it's like very different, you know? Is the same thing if Isayama told me that they're actually just 60 meters and they're buried. I'd be like, okay, that was a completely valid, you know, thing that I've always considered and I've always said maybe. But hearing that, why is the Colossal the same size then? Like the Colossal's one of the 9. Why are the Wall Titans also 60? You know, kind of like means that the Colossal's not actually that colossal. Think about that, Isayama. If these questions lead to more questions, I will always have more questions about Attack on Titan. There are so many things, like, and this is what I was talking about before we started talking about this. I have so many questions about Attack on Titan, but I don't want any of them answered. Like, I do, but I don't. Like, I don't want Isayama to ever try and come up with an explanation of how the Titans actually came to be. Like, there is no explanation that he can reasonably give that'll be satisfying. Not a single thing I think he can say that will actually feel like, yeah, that makes sense. Because it's not meant to be. It's literally foundational magic, you know? Like, if you explain magic, it becomes science. I don't want science. The only thing I actually just want Isayama to write about is the Great Titan War. But that would be like something completely new, something that we haven't explored yet. You know, that's like something I really want to learn more about. We've seen the second one, I want to see the first one. I feel like I want things from my favorite authors, but I also trust their guts so much more than mine, so whatever they do, I respect. Yeah, and I feel a lot of that about the ending. I'll talk about it when we get to the overanalyzing episodes, but there are a lot of things in the ending that I would have done differently. You know, but when I take a step back, I see that it was like, the ending perfectly fit Isayama's vision, going as far back as episode 5, episode 6. right? Like if you watch the like the Eren is dead episode, I think that was like 6, 7. 6 is I think the cabin episode, and I think 7 is Mikasa being miserable, or 7 is already Eren appearing. I don't remember. 6 or 7. If you watch that episode and then watch the series finale back to back, like there is a literal unbroken thread going all the way throughout. Like it's literally thematically, it's perfect. I would have just done things around that a little bit differently, but the ending I think is the embodiment of the world is cruel but also beautiful. I would have focused more on the cruel. Isayama focused more on the beautiful, right? Which I do think is like a good message, because at the same time we also got the post-credits scene of like Parody being obliterated, which is, you know, cruel. Like we survived, but nothing changed. Like literally nothing changed, nothing mattered. It still happened again. So it is kind of like a mixed bag. I'll talk about it in the main series. There are things I definitely would have done a little bit differently. I just want anything in Attack on Titan universe. Anything. I want the Great Titan War. I would love to see Ymir's first war. Like the entire thing that happened there. How did Marley even assemble the assassination? What happened there? I would even like to explore maybe what if scenarios, but like it kind of, again, it directly goes against the vision of Attack on Titan, so I don't really want that. I kind of want to see what ifs just for the sake of like satisfying my own curiosity, but not really like a story to be taken seriously. Because I do think that is like the antithesis of Attack on Titan. Like there are no do-overs. That's the whole point. I just want to see the major historical turns, basically. I would also love to see Marley's full campaign. Anyone except Isayama might ruin it. I genuinely think, and I mean, I say this word with no hesitation, I think Isayama is actually a genius. Like, straight up. If you look at how many details he has to pay attention to at every point in the story, it is genuinely absurd. This is not even like you wrote a good story. He was writing about things that make sure moisture doesn't destroy a book. He was actually writing about things that is like, he had like the preservative in the basement, right? So the moisture doesn't damage the book. Who the hell thinks of that? Who thinks of that? And imagine starting a series with a title that is blatant spoilers. It's insane. There are a lot of things you can criticize in Attack on Titan, I think, that are valid, even though I don't agree with them. I think there are valid criticisms. But I think, like, one thing you just literally cannot criticize is how absurdly consistent the story is. Like, the only inconsistencies mostly come from either dramatization, like, you know, the Wall Titan facing inward, which is, like, it is inconsistencies, but everyone knows why it's the way it is. Like, realistically, the Titan shouldn't be facing inside. Right, like we never see that when the rumbling starts. It doesn't turn around. There's no weirdness. Like all the Titans are facing outward. But you know, or the Mikasa tattoo. That was like a wit thing. They patched out the Mikasa tattoo and then just retconned it. But that was an anime thing. That had nothing to do with the manga. The Colossal's ability, I guess, is another like small inconsistency. There are a few things, but it's insane. Yeah, like the fact that he was 19 when he started writing is insane. Absolutely insane. Because I'm 22. I'm about to turn 23. What the hell have I done with my life? He literally created one of the most successful stories of all time, period, by 21. What the hell? Inconsistencies don't take away from the overall story, to which is key. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why I can create an overanalyzing series, and I obviously joke about the fact that it's overanalyzing, which of course it is, but the fact that I can literally make 30-minute, 40-minute videos about every single episode, that's not just me being a catastrophic yapper. You can genuinely talk about those things for that long. And those are 20-minute anime episodes. So the fact that I've seen the series like however many dozen times, and I'm like, wait, is that a plot hole? Yeah, I mean, like, you're not even nitpicking at that point. You I don't even know what the term for that would be. Like, oh, the armor titan whose thing is always surviving everything and being indestructible survives a weird situation. Is that a nitpick? Kind of, I guess. An architect writer as opposed to George R. R. Martin? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact that, like, you when you want to sell the idea of Attack on Titan, how do you even explain what Attack on Titan is without spoiling it? Because if you say it's a story about war, you're already low-key spoiling it. Because it's a survival series at first. Like, it doesn't really become a war until, like, well, when you know you're in a war. It's like season 3, season 2, I guess you could say, but really it's season 3. How do you even explain what it is?